Okay, so today we're going to talk about, first topic we're going to talk about would be about logic, okay? So, well, one of the common issues that the society they deal with today is about absolutes, okay? So, is there absolutes? Okay? Well, some people say, no, there's no absolute. But that's illogical, okay? Because if a person say, there's no absolute, all you have to do is say, are you absolutely sure? Right? So by just using the logic, you know there must be an absolute, right? Okay. Also, for evolution, okay, you know the Big Bang theory. They say in the beginning, and you keep going back, and there's a little dot, and now they even say, well, there's before the dot there's nothing. So nothing explode, and that's where the universe came about, right? But again, that's illogical, right? Because if you think about it, nothing does not exist. Because if it exists, it will become something. Try to think about nothing. When you think about nothing, well, that nothing is becomes something, right? So again, it's illogical says anything comes from nothing, okay? Because nothing does not exist. If it exists, it becomes something, okay? Because you have to be something to be exist. So again, that's some of the logic. Okay. Now, another question that a lot of people will kind of, especially Christians, will encounter from the atheists, right? They will say, okay, if you believe in God, okay, can God make a rock so big that He cannot lift it? So can God make a rock so big that He cannot lift it? So they think, see, I got your question. How are you going to answer that question? Okay? Well, before we answer the question, you can ask the person, whoever asks the question, okay? Say, before I answer the question, okay, how about you answer this question first? If you can answer this question, you can do this, and I can answer your question, okay? The question is, try to draw a four-sided triangle. Okay, well, how are you going to draw a four-sided triangle? Well, if you draw these, well, then it's not a triangle. Well, if you draw these, then it's not four-sided. So can you draw a four-sided triangle? No, you can't. Why? Is it because you don't know what is a square and what is four-sided and what is triangle? No, you know what four-sided is. You know what triangle is, right? So why can't you draw a four-sided triangle? Is it because you lack of ability? Is it because you lack of understanding? What's the problem? Well, the problem is the question is messed up. Okay, it's self-contradictory. Okay, right? Can you draw a four-sided triangle? It's self-contradicting. Okay, because four-sided is not a triangle. So the problem is not the ability of person can draw. The problem is the person asking the question. Okay, there's something wrong with the question. It's illogical. In the same way, when a person asks, can God make a rock so big that He cannot lift it? Well, first you have to understand what's the definition of, just like the four-sided triangle, you got to understand the definition of four-sided and the definition of triangle, right? It's self-contradicting, right? So same thing, okay, what's the definition of God? Well, God is infinite, okay? God is not physical, God is spiritual, it's infinite. How about a rock? A rock is what? A rock is physical, it's finite. So the question asks, can a finite become smaller? Can something object like a rock, a finite, be bigger than something like God, infinity? No. Why? Because there's something wrong with the question. Okay. So the person asks this question, oh, can God make a rock so big that He cannot, lift it? Think, oh, see, he's so smart, right? Well, actually, there's a Bible verse for that. Okay. See, the people that ask those kind of questions think they're so smart. But, there's a Bible verse for that, okay? So if you look at Romans 1:22, those unbelievers, they profess themselves to be wise, they become fools, okay? They think they're so smart, they can get you with that question, but doing that, they show how stupid they are because they lack of understanding of the infinity and finite, the spiritual and physical, because they don't understand about what is the definition of God. Okay, they don't understand about God. And so they ask those foolish questions because the question itself does not make sense. It's like ask people to draw a four-sided triangle. Okay, it does not make sense. That's why it cannot be done. Okay, so that's kind of about logic. Okay, now next, let's go into some of the issues that seems contradictory and people have a hard time resolving. Okay, for example, okay, so let's look at some of these verses over here. So for example, John 1:1, it talks about, in the beginning was a word, and the word was God, and the word was God. So this verse talks about Jesus Christ is in the beginning. Now this beginning is not beginning of time. Okay, this is the beginning of everything. Okay. Now the next verse, it says, this is talking about the birth of Jesus. It says, and knew her not until she had brought forth her firstborn son, and he called his name Jesus. So again, it seems like contradictory, right? So Jesus, is before even the time began, and now it has beginning. So how can Jesus be eternal, have no beginning, and yet have a beginning? Seems as a contradiction, right? Okay, now look at the next verse. So this deal with the issue of the eternality of God, right? And the finality or limited of Jesus Christ as man, right? Now look at the next verse. On Matthew 18:20, it says, "For where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there am I." Notice the tense. It's a present tense. So as Jesus is speaking, it says, when 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, out there somewhere, anywhere in the world, there am I in the midst of them. Okay? So this is the present tense. So what he's saying is that, okay, I'm here right now physically, right? But when 2 or 3 gather out there, I'm also there. Okay? So he's here and at someplace else at any time. Okay? Now a lot of people interpret, it's just they are spiritually, right? Okay? But that is not quite the case, as I will show in a few minutes. Now another verse, okay, John 3:13. Okay, it says, "And no man has ascended up to heaven, but he that came down from heaven." So pay close attention to the tense of the sentence. Okay, so came down, so that's past tense, right? So Jesus came down from heaven, right, when he was born, right? Now look up, even the Son of Man, which is present tense in heaven. Now Jesus Christ is speaking, right? And then, so he's speaking and he's on earth, right? And yeah, what did he say? Which is in heaven. So it shows that Jesus Christ is on earth when he's speaking, and yet he is in heaven. So you have to pay close attention to the tense, right? Okay? So again, so it shows you that Jesus Christ is omnipresent. Okay, he's God, he's omnipresent. So again, he's localized and yet he's in heaven. Okay? But again, it seems like kind of does not quite make sense, right? It seems like doesn't quite fit. Okay, but again, we're going to deal more. Okay? Now, the other verses that you come across would be, look at the next one. The Luke 2:52. "And Jesus increased in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and men." Notice Jesus increased in wisdom. Okay? Wait a minute, isn't he supposed to be God? And he's supposed to know everything? So how can he increase in wisdom? And look over here. Hebrews 13:8. Jesus Christ the same yesterday and today and forever. Wait a minute. He's changing, he's increasing wisdom, and yet he's the same yesterday, today, and forever. Is there something wrong with the Bible? Is it a contradiction? Think about it. Okay? Okay, now let's go to the next part over here. Go down a little bit. Next one over here. Okay, Matthew 11:27. "All things are delivered unto me of my Father, and no man knoweth the Son, but the Father. Neither knoweth any man the Father, save the Son, and he to whomever the Son will reveal him." Okay. So again, talk about this over here. Everything, all things are delivered unto him, right? So it means he's going to know everything. Okay. Now, but over here, So again, Jesus Christ as God, he knows everything, right? But look at Mark 13:32. But of that day and that hour knoweth no man. This is talking about the rapture, okay? No, not the angels which are in heaven, neither the Son, but the Father. So again, it's a contradiction, right? As God, Jesus Christ is supposed to know everything, and yet he does not know the time of rapture. So again, a lot of Christians struggle with these issues, okay? So I'm going to show you in a minute how math can easily solve these problems. It's very easy to understand why if you understand math. Okay, it will help you explain and understand why. Okay, or else you're going to, again, a lot of people struggle with these issues, but there's are very easy solutions. Okay, so how can you resolve all these issues? Okay, well, let's take the one about let's go and deal with the increasing wisdom and stay the same yesterday, today, and forever. Okay? Well, you know that God is infinite, right? Okay? So what happens if let's say Jesus Christ, he's infinite, right? And so let's say he become a man, right? And so you're going to add wisdom onto it, right? So what happens when you add like one wisdom? What will this equal to? Or it's still infinity, right? So you can see because God is infinite, Jesus Christ is infinite. That's why you can add something. You can increase in wisdom and yet stay the same. And it only can work when it's infinite. It only with infinity. So you can see that by using this example, okay, you can increase in wisdom and yet stay the same forever, the same, right? So that is by using algebra. But it's even more clear when you use geometry. Okay? See, what happened is, a lot of time we think things because we are lower beings compared to God. God is a higher beings, and even the angels, right? So their thoughts are much higher than our thoughts. A lot of time we think at a lower level, okay? We're thinking too low, okay? Our intelligence are too low, okay? So, for example, like if you look at Isaiah 55:8, it says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, says the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." So what happened is, a lot of time we're thinking too low, okay? We're thinking like, for example, lower dimensions. So to reconcile all those kind of, in ways like contradictions, actually they are not. It's just that we don't think enough, okay? The reason that it seems a contradiction because what happened is that heaven is a higher dimension than the earth. So think about this is like God, okay? This is a double cone, okay? Okay, so think about this is God. God is three-dimensional, okay? I'm just using an analogy. And earth, let's think of us. We are like a two dimensions, okay? So we are like, okay? So this is like our world, okay? And this is God intersect this, right? Okay? So when you're cone and you intersect with a plane, you end up with a circle, okay? Now, so how can God have, how can God be infinite and finite at the same time? Well, because what happened is, think about, remember this goes on forever, right? This is just part of it, right? So this is like God. God is infinite. It goes on forever, right? But when God interact with man, this is like the world, okay? So this is finite. So you can see God can be infinite and finite at the same time. Depends on where you look at. Okay, so this is us right over here. Okay, so as we look at Jesus Christ, oh, he's finite, but he's only like a slice of the entire God. Okay, we only can see a very limited part of God. So what we see is finite. So the part that we can see, that he's born as a man, and that's the part that we see. Okay, so again, if you look at entirety, God is infinite. But in this world, where he interact with us, he is a man, finite. Okay, in wisdom-wise, okay, his wisdom is infinite. But when he's in here, okay, it can change, because what happened is so when he just born, he was like over here, right? Think about the plant. When you cut over here, it's just a dot. As you move, as this double cone move down, the circle becomes bigger and bigger. So does God change? No, right? The God is still double cone. But as it moves through this world, the circle gets bigger and bigger, right? As it's moving down, right? If it was intersecting over here, you get a dot. As intersect over here, you get a smaller circle. As you move, as the double cone move down, the intersection gets bigger and it gets bigger, right? So as the double cone moves through, as God moves through the world, okay, the circle gets bigger and bigger. So that's how Jesus Christ can grow from a little baby, become a boy, okay, become a young man, right? And grow in wisdom and stature, right? Everybody say it grow, right? It's grow, right? But does God change? No, God is still the same. See, there's the double cone. So it's just the interaction with the world is changing. Okay? So that's why God can be infinite, okay? Same yesterday, today, and forever, right? It's the same. It's a double cone. And yet, Jesus Christ can grow in wisdom and stature. Okay? You see that it grows. Okay? It's not a contradiction. Okay? It's just a different level of existence. Okay? It's the same thing, okay, about how can God know everything, and how can Jesus knows everything and don't know the rapture at the same time? It's a contradiction? No. Again, think of this as an entire wisdom, okay, or all the knowledge. So he knows everything, but again, as he moves through, right, the circle gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So that means Jesus, as on the earth, his knowledge, his wisdom is growing. When he was a baby, like over here, a little dot, right, when he just newborn, he doesn't know much. Right? Just like a regular baby. But as he grows into a young boy and a teenager and as a man, his knowledge increase. Okay? So that's why as a man, he's not going to know things outside of the world, okay, unless God the Father revealed to him, right? So there are certain things that he does not know. But as God, he knows everything. Okay? So again, it's not a contradiction. Okay? It's just a different level of existence. Okay? And also that's why Jesus Christ can be localized, and yet he be omnipresent, because of his, he is omnipresent, he is present everywhere. Okay? And this is the entire world, see that? Entire world. So his entire world, and he also can be localized. He's not inside the world. He's not inside this world, so he's not limited by this world. Okay? Again, the reason we have problem with those scriptures I mentioned is because, again, we're only thinking at two dimensions. We don't think God as outside the two dimension. So all we see is this part over here. That's why we're having a problem. Okay, we have to realize it's a higher dimension. Okay, so again, by understanding the intersection of a plane and the double cone, so God is a higher dimension than us. Okay, and that will help you kind of understand why it seems kind of contradiction, but it's not. It's a different level of existence. Okay? And again, the reason we have struggled with that because people are not used to think about different level of existence and how do they interact with each other. Okay. Okay, so next issue that a lot of people struggle with is the sovereignty of God and so-called free will of man. But actually that's kind of misleading, because man does not actually have free will. Okay? Every decision that a person makes is influenced by something. Okay? Whether by the Holy Spirit's guiding or by the sin nature. Okay? So every decision that a person makes, so actually there's no free will. There's a will. Okay? You can decide what you want. Okay? So let's get it out of the way. Okay? But now, so how does man's will and God's sovereignty reconcile. It seems that the opposite, right? They will never intersect, right? Right? They are opposite things. It seems that they don't reconcile. But again, the people have problem with the issue of sovereignty of God and the will of man. It's because, again, we are limited to thinking in the lower level thinking. Okay? Again, God is higher being than us. God thinks higher than us. So how can this reconcile together? Okay? Again, instead of thinking two-dimensional, you do three-dimensional. Okay? So this is called a Mobius strip. So everybody going to take one and pass it down. Okay, pass it down. Okay? So again, when you think in a higher dimension, so right now, again, if you notice, man's will and sovereignty of God, they're opposite. Okay? They don't meet. Okay? But if you think instead of two-dimensional, if you go three-dimensional, okay, think three-dimensional using Mobius strip, okay, then what you do is, so what happens is, just put your finger anywhere, like man's will. Now don't lift your finger off the paper. Just follow the tape. Keep going, right? So again, you start with man's will, okay, and keep going, okay, keep going. Follow this, okay. So where did you end up? Sovereignty of God. So they're going together, okay. Then it's not a contradiction. But when you're thinking in two-dimensional, when you're thinking a lower dimension thinking, right? You're thinking two-dimensional, they're contradiction, right? It seems they don't meet. They're opposite of each other, but they're not opposite of each other. Okay? So sovereignty of God and the will of man actually work together. Okay? Again, if you follow this with a higher dimension, with a three-dimensional, it fits together. Okay? So again, if you look at the verse, so if you look over here, look at Philippians 2:13. It says, "For it is God which works in you both to will and to do of His good pleasure." So see, God works in us to will. So whatever we want to decide is actually God working us. So you can see that from the Mobius strip, God's sovereignty and will of man is together. It's not contradiction. Okay, they don't contradict each other. Okay, like when you think about some of the stuff, right? Thinking two-dimensionally, again, they don't contradict each other. Okay, now. And let's talk a little bit about sovereignty of God. So if you look at Proverbs, over here, the Proverbs 16:33, it said, "The lot is cast into the lap, okay? But the whole disposing thereof is of Lord." So even when you roll the dice, like for example, even you play Monopoly, when you roll the dice, guess what? The outcome is decided by God. Okay, when you flip a coin, you think, oh, it's just by chance, right? By luck, right? No, there's no such thing. Everything is controlled by God. Okay? And again, everything, so if you look at the next verse, Isaiah 46:10, declaring the end from the beginning and from the ancient time, the things that are not yet done. So again, in the past and the future, saying, "My counsel shall stand, I will do all my pleasure." So God planned everything out. Past, future, everything's all God all figured out, all planned out. Okay? Again, it comes to the question, how about the will of man? Well, again, the reason we struggle with that issue is because we're still thinking about this. Sovereignty of God, will of man. They contradict each other. Okay? Again, we're still thinking in a lower dimension. That's why we struggle with that issue. Okay? But if you understand using a high dimension, again, sovereignty of God work in us to will and to do His good pleasure. God try to work in us so that we can do good things, but we also have will to resist and to do bad things. Okay, but again, God, that's part of God's sovereignty. Okay. Okay, now let's go to the next issue. about what happens when you travel fast in speed of light. Okay, well, the scientists must be very bad with math. That's why you got to know your math. You know, you got all these scientists, you know, they have all this PhD and all this degree, right? And so if you ask them, what happens when you travel fast in speed of light? Oh, you go backward in time. Duh, no. Okay, you know why? Okay, well, let's look at some of the equations. Okay? So this is Einstein's the equation for relativity. Okay? So there are three equations. So time equal to, this is called a time dilation. Okay, so T0 is when you're at rest, means you're not moving. Okay, so this is when speed equal to 0. Okay? And V is the velocity that an object is moving. C is the speed of light. And T would be the object, you know, the time the object would be feeling. Okay? So this is called a time dilation. Then you have the contraction, so length. See what happens when you're moving at very high speed, your length will change. Okay? So this is the equation. So when you're moving at kind of at high speed, again your height will change. Okay? And then you have the mass of the object. So your mass will change. Okay? But let's just look at this one over here. Okay? So what happens when you travel faster than speed of light? Okay? So look at this one here. When V is greater than C. Okay? Let's just say put in like 2. Okay? Let's say you travel twice the speed of light. Make the math a bit easier. Let's say travel fast, like twice the speed of light. Okay? So that means T equal to T0. So let's say V equal to twice the speed of light. So you're going to get T0 over square root of 1 minus 2C over C squared, right? So you're going to get T equal to T0 over 1 minus, this cancels out, 1 minus 4. So you're going to T equal to T0 over square root of negative 3, right? So when you do this, right, you know that it's going to be T equal to kind of T0 times like negative, well, it's a square root of 3 over 3i. And it's negative. Okay, right? You have to simplify. This becomes, that's why we learn about the complex numbers, right? Okay, so again, if you know a little bit about math, when you travel fast in speed of light, does the time go backward? No, it's imaginary. So you don't go back in time. If you don't have an I, yeah, that means you go back in time because time becomes negative. Okay, so this is negative square root of 3. Square root of 3 over 3. So what does imaginary time means? Okay, remember we also learned about how to graph real versus imaginary, right? So this is real, this is imaginary, right? And so that's 0, right? So again, let's plot the time, okay? So let's say, so this is year 0. Okay, so this is 1000 BC. This is 2000 BC. This is 3000 BC. This is 4000 BC. Okay, let's go back a little bit more. So this is 5000 BC. This is 6000 BC. And over here is 1000 AD. 2000 AD. And we are about like right over here. Okay? So imagine that you can travel, imagine you live very long time. Okay? So you start over here, and then you go through time, right? Go through entire history. So you live for thousands of years. So you see all the things happening in the world, right? Now, when you get over here, you decide to go fast in speed of light. So again, we calculate over here, right? When you go fast in speed of light, what happens to time? The time becomes negative imaginary. That means you're no longer going along the real timeline. As soon as you go fast in speed of light, you're going to go in a negative imaginary time. That means instead of going this way, you're going to go here. You're going to go this way now. Okay, so that's going to be you now. Okay, or some of you are girls, or some of you are boys, right? Okay, So you're no longer going this way. Instead, you're going this way. So when you're going fast in speed of light, you don't go back in time. Okay? Because you just took the equation, you don't go back in time. You go to negative imaginary time. So what does that mean? Well, so when you go into imaginary time, you're in a different dimension. So what happens is when you look back over here, when you look at what happened in history. So Garden of Eden is created around over here is 6147 BC. Okay, I calculated that. That's part of my study. Okay. Oh no, 4174 BC. So before there's no time over here. Okay, got carried away. But anyway, so Adam and Eve, they were created over here. So happened. So as far as you're concerned, what time was that? Remember, you're in imaginary time, right? So this is 0, this is 1, 2, 3, -1, -2. I'm using different scale, okay? So Adam and Eve, they were created at time 0 as far as you're concerned, because you're 0 over here, that's your 0, okay? The flood took place about over here. So when did that happen as far as you're concerned? At time 0, right? Remember, you're imaginary, you're over here, okay? So you're in imaginary time. So it happened at time 0, year 0, okay? So right now, so let's say, when Jesus was born, about right over here, when was that? Year 0, right? Right now we are in the imaginary time, right? Okay? Then what happened during let's say, World War II over here? When did that happen? Year 0. So what it's saying is that when you're in a higher dimension, let's say heaven, the entire human history happened at the same time. All happened at time 0, year 0. Everything happened at the same time, but it happened sequentially. It happened one after the other, but at the same time. Again, it can blow your mind. I know some people, wait a minute, how can it be all at the same time, but it's sequential? It doesn't make sense, right? But that's why you have to understand about math, okay? Because you're at different dimension, you're imaginary time. So everything happened in the entire world happened at the same time, but it happened sequentially, one after the other, okay? So think about that. Okay, now, that's one verse I want to kind of go over. So, by the way, also notice when traveling fast at the speed of light, what happens is that your mass become imaginary. Okay, so you're going to have imaginary mass. Right now we have physical mass, right? But again, when traveling fast at the speed of light, you're in different dimension. That's called a heaven. So when you're in heaven, you have imaginary mass. So it means you have a spiritual body, okay? And they kind of fit in with everything that the Bible talked about in the 1 Corinthians. Okay? So that's why if you notice over here, in the 1 Corinthians 15:50, it says, "Now I say, brethren, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God, neither does corruption inherit corruption." So what it's saying is that when you have physical mass, when you have physical body, you cannot go into heaven because you cannot make it. Because what happens is when you have physical mass, you're not going to be able to travel fast in the speed of light. So you cannot travel to different dimension. It means you cannot get to heaven. Okay? Just look strictly from scientific point of view. Okay? And that's why during the rapture, okay, when the last trumpet sound, okay, all the believers that are still alive, their body will transform, right, into spiritual body. That means your body mass become a different body. Okay, so you have the spiritual body, okay, a glorified body, and so your mass no longer have physical mass. That means you can travel fast in speed of light. And actually, from what I see, it seems like angels, okay, it can travel like speed of thought. You want to go someplace, you think, then you're there. Okay? Because you can travel between dimensions. Okay? It's no longer like what we think that using a rocket ship or spaceship. Okay? So again, there's a lot of stuff, very interesting stuff. And There's a lot of interesting verse in 1 Corinthians chapter 15. If you have a chance, kind of look through it and think about the bodies. Okay, so let's see, go through here. So you can look over here, the verse 40 over here. It says, there are also celestial bodies and bodies terrestrial. But the glory of the celestial is one, and the glory of the terrestrial is another. Okay? There's one glory of the sun. So you're talking about contrast between the resurrected body versus the natural body. Okay? And if you go up to, again, you kind of have to read the whole passage over here, but I'm just picking out some over here. So like this over here, the verse 49 says, as we have borne the image of the earthly, we shall also bear the image of the heavenly. So again, talking about we're going to get a heavenly body. Okay? So again, there's a lot of interesting things, but again, the math, you can, especially as you move up in higher math, it kind of help you able to think and help you to kind of put some of the stuff kind of into understanding. Okay, so that's going to stop over here.